What's up, guys? Welcome back. Back on the Aristo again. You guys are going to have a lot of Aristo content here coming up. So, hope you guys are enjoying it. The other night I was messing around trying to figure out exactly why the sub didn't work, and I figured it out. The the little suspension rubber piece was totally gone, and I could actually see light through it. So I pulled the back seat apart, and it was actually unplugged. So I pulled it out because it was definitely screwed up. Started doing some measuring. I had an SC300 factory sub from that parts car. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll just use that thing, and well, they don't come apart. As much as they look like they come apart, they're kind of all glued together, and as soon as you go to take it apart, you break things. I did that. Didn't mean to, but here's what it is. It was a spare, and not like my SC actually runs a sub. So I started doing some research on what other people do, and it looks like everybody just relocates the sub or replaces it with an aftermarket sub, an aftermarket amp, and that's probably the correct way to do it. And actually, it is the correct way to do it. But I decided to do a little more research, and it looks like a lot of people for the ES300, the IS350 and 250 also have a subwoofer in the back deck, and they all apparently fail due to UV. So it dries everything out, and then it tries to move and busts all the stuff apart, and then they sound like garbage and people toss them. But people are actually using the factory amp to drive an aftermarket sub as long as it's wired properly. So I jumped on Amazon and did a bunch of research on sizes and the ohms and the max RMS and the power. Because I don't want to try to drive something that's going to actually pull a bunch of amperage from the factory amp, because I don't want to smoke the amp because it's actually running all the door speakers and everything, and they all work fine. So I found something that I think is going to work. I have already started working. I'm sorry. This is not going to be a step-by-step as much as things are sometimes, but I'll show you guys what I've already done. Alright, so back seat's all out of it. I had to throw the tray back in because we took this to dinner. And yeah, a lot of room back here. You could do a lot with no seats in this car. This is a big car. I thought my SC was big. This is big. So that's all out. This tray, you can kind of see, lifts up. That's where the sub goes. I can't pull that thing out all the way because apparently the third brake light is hardwired. So yeah. But why am I the way that I am? I can't leave anything alone. But I can tell you that these cars are definitely made better than all the new cars. This is old school. There's a ton of padding. The springs are all really nice, but this thing is heavy. I couldn't believe how heavy this thing was. I struggled to get that out by myself. The other bit of the seat is over here. Again, super heavy. All steel springs and everything. Really nice padding. The leather in this is really in good shape, so I'll probably do a little bit while I can access everything on this, but move on to what I've been working on. So Quart, they have a pretty good reputation as far as being, pretty good. This is their Discus series, and it's meant for a truck, and it's super shallow. The reason this has to be super shallow is because the air purifier in the back actually is right under that back deck. So it draws air in, goes through a filter, and comes back out. So the air purifier is, just a little bit below, and the factory sub, which you can see I kind of cut it apart, but that was only maybe an inch above the air purifier. So this is actually more shallow than the factory, However, that was supposed, it's like a 10 inch kinda. This is a true 10 inch. And originally it said that this measured 12 inches across. So I was just going to bolt that onto here. It's not 12 inches across. So it does fit down in there, which would be nice. This is the factory sub cut apart. Like there's the magnet, there's the cone. This is all cut apart. However, there's no place to actually bolt it in unless I were to weld something, and I'm not going that far. That and, the metal on metal isn't great for a sub because it'll rattle. So what I think I'm going to do, actually what I know I'm going to do, is I'm going to make an adapter ring. There's a little bit of an angle right here. So what I'm going to do is drill some holes in this, make an adapter ring out of some MDF, which is what most people build a sub box out of because it kind of like absorbs vibration. So build an adapter ring that screws in through the side over here, and then it will bolt in here. So that is the plan. I wired this originally for 8 ohms just because the original was 4 ohms so that I didn't overload the factory amp. Well, you basically couldn't hear it because that's 4 ohm, and there's a lot of math and stuff that goes behind the way that all this stereo stuff works. Thankfully, there is a just wire it this way or wire it this way in their instructions. So I wired it for 8 ohms, which is actually like a quieter and way to cut some of the power out, which is, this is a dual voice coil. So when you wire it all up, you jump things and it runs 8 ohms. Well, what I had to do to make this thing sound halfway decent was put it to 2 ohms, which is basically, I think, wiring it in parallel instead of series. So series is where you jump one to the other, and then this is wired in parallel, and that makes it 2 ohms, which gives it a little bit more power, and you could actually hear it. I threw it back in there just kind of like sitting in there and kind of plugged it in. I utilized the factory stuff. Obviously, this is not the exact correct way. The correct way would be to bypass the factory amp or use the original wiring to trigger an external amp, but I'm going to try to run this for a little bit, and so it just needs a little more something. That's why I am going to run it off the factory amp for now. I don't need this thing to bump like crazy. I just want to round out the sound because I'm just using a Bluetooth to like radio frequency adapter, so it just transmits like a radio frequency out and accepts Bluetooth. So I just want it to have a little bit. It's got great speakers. It sounds great, but it just needs a little bit more low end. And I think that by just putting this in there, running off the factory amp, obviously it's going to be way down on power for what the sub can actually put out. But if it just rounds things out for now, that sub was like $53, and it was here in 2 days. So not only was it what should fit as far as depth wise, but it was really cheap. So for $50, like really, even if it just rounds the sound out a little bit, it's perfect. Down the road, I want to do like a Kenwood touchscreen with like Android Auto and everything, so that I can like mirror my phone and have like navigation and everything through the head unit, so that I'm not using these like adapters on adapters to, make 90s technology work with 2020 technology, which for what it is, this thing has amazing sound, but I just, eventually just slowly bringing things up to where I would like them to be, because this, like, I want this to look like a late 90s build as far as like the looks and the styling and things, but we're using today's technology. That's what we have to do. I can't deal with it. Eventually this thing will get a Haltech. hopefully I can do a full replacement, but the dash on these kind of get a little bit upset sometimes, so I might have to leave the factory ECU in there just to like run the gauges. Maybe I'll get rid of them, put a display in there. I don't really want to do that, but I don't really know. That's totally getting off subject here, but I think next we need to, map out and cut the little like MDF adapter ring. So we're gonna do that, draw it out, and get that all bolted together so that I can put the back seats back in, because tomorrow is actually Cars and Coffee, socially distanced and masked and everything like that, but it's going to be me and the boys. So like my wife is going to like dinner or like lunch, late lunch with her family. So Cars and Coffee's at 2 p.m. I am going to take the boys. Aiden's got his mask. He loves wearing it. I've got my mask. Joey is too young for a mask. He's just a little over 1 now. So he'll cruise around. Either I'll hold him, or he can walk, or we'll push him in a stroller. But we're gonna take the Aristo to its first like meet, even though obviously it still needs a bunch. But I have to have the back seat back in to cart the kids. So we need to get this done and back together. So let's cut this piece of wood real quick, get the adapter made, and get this sub fit back in. There it is. It's all put together. Like I said, I don't really love that fiberboard, but you're not even going to see it. And I think it's going to hold together fine. I'm going to get it put back in the car, put the seats and stuff back in, and then I'll let you guys take a listen, see if you guys can even tell the difference. Alright, so I kind of got pressed for time last night because it started getting really dark really fast. I washed the car, and I got the back seats back in. Well, sub works, for sure. It takes a little bit of dialing because it tries to clip if you turn it all the way up. And again, I'm using like a Bluetooth to radio adapter, but I'm going to play a really short clip because obviously I can't play a really long clip. This is called Tiger Kingdom by Grizz, but it's pretty rad. So let me turn this thing on here, let you guys listen to just a second. Obviously it'll get copyrighted if I go for very long at all, so but it definitely rounded the sound out in here. Alright, that's all I'm going to play you guys. Now that's with the DSP, which is the I think it's, digital stereo something. I don't know. It's like surround sound from like the 90s, so it's got like a Hall, a Live, a cathedral and a dome, and you can play with the amount. You can do positive and negative. I've got it on, but then all the way out as far as it'll go. And it sounds really pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to put all the back seat, I'm going to put the kids' seats in, and we're going to go get my dad and go to Cars and Coffee today. So I'm going to let him film a little bit just of driving so that you guys can finally see this thing driving. It does drive. Yeah. So that'll be next. See you guys in a minute. Guys, totally forgot to film an outro last night after we got back from Cars and Coffee. We had a really good time. It was good to hang out with Dad. It was good to hang out with the boys. They really enjoyed themselves. The plan is to rebuild these wheels once I run on them a little bit, so probably this winter. Larger lips, different color centers, but that's a whole other thing. Bunch more content coming out. Gonna have some new stuff coming soon, and hope you guys enjoyed. Look forward to seeing you guys soon.